Hello everyone, in this video we are going to look at our liquids. Compared to the gas state, the liquid state have all those particles packed much closer to each other. They are going to interact with each other through some attractive interactions. We are going to talk about that interaction in a little bit. And compared to the gas, now if you really want to compress the volume of the liquid, it's very hard because all the particles already packed pretty close to each other. And for the liquid, we are going to learn three features of the liquid. The first one is called viscosity. That is a measurement of a liquid's resistance to flow. That meaning if you have a higher viscosity liquid, that meaning that it's hard to flow. For example, if you are thinking about the honey, if you pour honey on the tabletop, it is a liquid, however, it's really hard to flow compared to the water, which has a lower viscosity. And talking about viscosity, if you are increasing the temperature, then the viscosity will be decreasing. And you can try this out at home if you are going to heat up a little bit of honey. Eventually, it will be much easier to float around. Just like water, not as good as water, but much easier to flow when you have a higher temperature. The second thing what we are going to talk about here is so-called surface tension. So surface tension is a measure of the attractive force exerted among molecules at the surface of a liquid. So the surface molecules are surrounded and attracted by fewer liquid molecules than those below, because on the top, for example, you only have the bottom ones next to it attracted, but you have the top open right here. So what's going to happen here is if you have net attractive force on the surface molecule, pull them down, then you will have a higher surface tension because those molecules will hold the top molecules a little more. So that is surface tension. So one good example is if you drop one drop of water, it will form like a dot, not a square on the surface. It is because of surface tension. It wants to decrease the surface area to achieve the highest surface tension possible. Now we are going to look at the third feature of the liquid, which is so-called vapor pressure. So first of all, what is vapor? Vapor is basically just a gas, and that is specifically that when you have this gas phase that is of a substance that is exist as either liquid or solid, especially when you have the liquid, vapor pressure is more pronounced. And most of the time when we measure the vapor pressure, what we are measuring here is 25 Celsius degree and at 1 atmosphere. But that is the vapor pressure. So how this vapor pressure measured and how it formed. So now we are going to review on two processes. The first one is so-called vaporization, which is meaning from the liquid phase to the gas phase. And the reverse one called condensation. That is when you have a gas and the gas go back to the liquid. That is a condensation. So how the vapor pressure happens? So basically what we have here is we have a closed container. Now inside this container we will have a liquid, and when you measure vapor pressure, basically is the vaporization, the liquid go to gas, and condensation, which will reach to an equilibrium. What does that even mean? So at the beginning, you will have some of the particles escape from liquid, especially the surface of this liquid go to the empty space. Then that is when you have the gas coming out. And at the same time, some of this gas molecule will be condensed going back to the liquid. That is a condensation. And this will be vaporization and condensation. And eventually, the molecule come out from liquid to the gas phase will equal to the speed or the rate coming back to the liquid. And at that moment, it's reached to a so-called equilibrium. So the vaporization and condensation will reach to a equilibrium. It does not mean that vaporization and condensation both will just stop. It just be the rate, they are the same. Going forward, going backward, they are the same speed or the same rate. So at this equilibrium, the pressure exerted by the vapor above the liquid is so-called vapor pressure. Now we are going to think about this process and think about how the temperature will affect the liquid vapor pressure. Because the vapor pressure comes from the vaporization, meaning that the liquid molecule will need to get some energy in order to escape the interaction of the molecules go to the gas phase. In another word, if you are raising up the temperature, you are going to put more energy into this liquid and to help the particle or the molecule escape from the liquid phase. So overcome the interaction, so go to the vapor phase. So basically what we are seeing here, if you increase the temperature, the liquid vapor pressure will be increased. Since we are talking about the liquid, one more thing we want to talk about here is so-called boiling point. Boiling point basically is the temperature that when the vapor pressure of the liquid becomes equal to the atmospheric pressure. And from the observation, it's basically when the liquid start to boil, start to get to the gas phase, that will be the boiling point. For example, if we are looking at the water, boiling water, the boiling point of water is 100 degrees Celsius. That is when at 100 degrees Celsius at 1 atmospheric pressure, the water will start to go into the gas phase from liquid, and that is so-called boiling point. And since the boiling point is directly associated with the process called vaporization. Basically, you are going to put energy in order to overcome the intermolecular forces. So if you have a stronger intermolecular force, in other words, those forces that hold all these molecules together very strong, then what's going to expect to see is the boiling point will be a higher boiling point. Why? Because you need to put more energy in order to overcome intermolecular forces, the force that hold molecules together. Another effect that affects the boiling point is the pressure. So if you have a lower pressure, the boiling point will be lower. Okay, so because you don't need to reach that high pressure when the vapor pressure is equal to the atmospheric pressure in order to boil. So when you take a pot of water, you want to boil it in mountain, you don't have to heat it up to 100 degrees Celsius. And that is the boiling point. Now the next question you will have is, how do I know the intermolecular forces which is stronger, which is weaker? So we are going to introduce the intermolecular forces. So intermolecular forces is just the force that hold molecules or particles together. And the inter means in between. So basically what we are looking at is not chemical bond. What we are looking at here is between either particles. Okay, particles. And that is intermolecular forces. That is very different from chemical bond. What we are either looking at ionic bond, which is chemical bond, so it's much stronger, or covalent bond. This is much stronger. I should say much stronger interactions. So for the intermolecular forces, we are going to look at 4 different types. The first one is so-called London dispersion force that happen for a so-called non-polar molecules. Now we already know how to determine molecule polar or non-polar. We are looking at here is molecules. So non-polar molecule usually will have London dispersion force. Everything have London dispersion force, but non-polar molecule will have only London dispersion forces as a major intermolecular force. The next one will be the dipole-dipole interaction. And actually, dipole-dipole interaction is the next stronger compared to the London dispersion force. So dipole-dipole interaction happened with the polar molecules. It does not mean that it does not have London dispersion. However, it will have the dipole-dipole intermolecular forces as a major intermolecular forces. For example, if we are looking at a molecule CHCl3, so now we know how to draw out the Lewis structure for this molecule right here. And for this molecule, at the center of its molecule, by Lewis structure, carbon don't have any lone pairs anymore, so we determined that it does not have lone pair. Then we are going to look at what is connected to if all these items are different or the same. And for this one, what we see here is 3 chlorine by 1 hydrogen, different. So this molecule is polar. So what does that mean? For this molecule, you are going to expect to see on this molecule, you are going to have a positive charge side and negative charge side. A lot of time we are going to use this partial positive, partial negative. This is delta to indicate that. And because of the charge slightly separation, so imagine if you have another molecule, CHCH3, so the positive charge side will interact with the negative side, and negative side will interact with another positive side. And because this is a permanent partial charge separation, so it's like permanent, this little magnet right here, dipole here, so they will interact with each other much stronger compared to a London dispersion force. And let's write this out, the London dispersion force, and the next one is dipole-dipole interaction. And beyond dipole-dipole interaction, there is another interaction that's based on a very special molecule. It has to be polar, and also it needs to have hydrogen, and that is so-called hydrogen bonding. So for hydrogen bonding, that is much stronger intermolecular forces. We are going to look at very specific in the next slide. And then after that, what we are going to experiment to have here is so-called ion-dipole interactions. Basically, that is how you can dissolve some of the ions inside the water, because water itself is a polar molecule and it can interact with ions. So among all these intermolecular forces, it will be stronger going up, and London force dispersion will be the weakest. Now we are going to look at this very strong intermolecular forces that is so-called hydrogen bonding. That is why the water boiling point is relatively higher than 100 degrees Celsius. It is because what we have here is so-called hydrogen bonding. It's a very particularly strong dipole-dipole force. And the requirement here is that hydrogen needs to be covalently bound to either oxygen, nitrogen, or fluorine. Why? Because they are very electron negative. So what does that mean? For example, if we have this water molecule right here, and this molecule already polar, and we have another one right here. I'm going to just examine what is hydrogen bonding right here, because first of all, hydrogen is on oxygen, and oxygen compared to hydrogen is very, very, very electronegative, meaning it's going to pull the electron covalent bond, this electron, towards itself a lot. Okay, very much so. And plus itself has those lone pairs, make the oxygen side is extremely negative charged. And at the same time, at the hydrogen side, it will be more positive charge. And now you have a very negative charged side and very positive charged hydrogen. So this negative charge, the oxygen, will form these interactions that is so-called hydrogen bonding. So all in all, if the molecule have hydrogen bonding, its hydrogen has to bond onto either oxygen, nitrogen, or fluorine. For example, if you have HF, this molecule right here, this will have hydrogen bonding because you will have another HF, and then the fluorine will have hydrogen bonding. And hydrogen bonding is extremely strong compared to the London dispersion force of the hydrogen dipole-dipole interaction. And it's very important in proteins, DNAs, and RNA structure. That is how the DNA double strand is held together. It is through the hydrogen bonding. Now we have learned the intermolecular forces that from the weakest London dispersion force all the way to hydrogen bonding that really dictates the boiling point. The higher, stronger intermolecular force will give you a higher boiling point liquid. That is the end of this video.